Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, and welcome to day 2 of our 5-day challenge. In case you need a refresher, we are here to plan our year. Most people know to plan their year at the beginning of the year or probably towards the end of the previous year. And we do that in different aspects of our lives. Why is our health an exception? So, over the next 5 days, we will be journeying through planning our year, and we'll be using some pillars of lifestyle medicine to guide us on how we do that. So, in case you know anyone who may be interested in joining us, by all means, please send them the link. And if there's access to the replay, which I will send to you at the end of this, please share that with them as well. I know that you'll have a good time, and if we execute on all that we planned, our year will be better for it. So let's get started. Today is going to be packed, but I promise you I will make it as succinct as possible, but know that you have access to the replay in case you need to go back and rearrange things. But today we're going to be talking about our exercise and nutrition plan. This is probably going to be the heaviest, but it's important because most of the time when a lot of people are talking about getting fit, they're usually talking about what they eat and exercise. Although that's not the whole story, it's a significant portion of healthy living. How we fuel our body and how we move, those are important elements to living a healthy life. So let's get started. We'll get through some definitions briefly, and then we'll dive into exercise right away. But let's talk about exercise. What does exercise mean? Most people know, keep moving, be active. But what does it actually mean, especially when we're talking about exercise as it pertains to physical fitness and overall health? Exercise is defined as a planned, structured, repetitive, and purposeful physical activity designed to improve our physical fitness and health. I want you to pay attention to the keywords planned, structured, repetitive, and purposeful. How is that different from physical activity? Physical activity is any body movement produced by muscle action that increases energy expenditure. Physical activity could include standing all day just by moving my hands, talking. That's physical activity. But it's not planned, it's not structured, it's not repetitive, it's not purposeful, and I have no intention of moving my hands every day to improve my physical fitness or overall health. So it's just important to keep in mind, especially when you're talking about structured exercises and how it helps your body. I can go to the mall, run around all day, buying clothes, buying things for my kids, but that does not mean I'm exercising. I'm busy, but I'm not exercising. The goal here is that we want to get exercising. Okay, now that we're done with the definitions, let's move right along. Okay, so the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, that's the short that I put in ACLM here. So when I say ACLM, it's American College of Lifestyle Medicine. They've given us some recommendations about how much we should exercise. Typically, we want to shoot for a goal. Remember, I said a goal. Even if you're not there yet, that's okay. We want to shoot for a goal of 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. I'll get through some of the definition and keywords here, but let's just get through what the guideline says. 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity activity. If you're not already an athlete, just stay away from that vigorous intensity for now until you build up into it. But aerobic activity, 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity, plus muscle strengthening exercises at least twice a week. And of course, tailor to your individual needs and goal. So now that we're done talking about the guideline, let's get some definitions done. Because I'm sure you're thinking, what is aerobic activity? How do I know something is moderate intensity? Let's get right into it. Okay, let's talk about types of exercises. So you know what is aerobic and what is not aerobic and what is strength training. Let's get into it. Aerobic exercises or exercises that actually are targeted for sustained rhythmic exercise movement that increases oxygen use in our body. Let's make that simple. Aerobic exercises increases your heart rate, increases your breathing. As a result, increases oxygen demand to produce energy. Typical example of an aerobic exercise would include running, swimming, cycling, and even walking fast. Usually, these kinds of exercises, you would really notice this in your increased heart rate, in your increased breathing rate, because you need to keep up with the demand of your body at that time. Strength training, however, is a little bit different. It's really more muscle focused. It helps increase muscle mass and strength. Strength training can help with muscle strength as you age. And when you think of strength training, a lot of people think about, lifting weights, using resistance machine, but simply body weights like squats, push-up are all strength training as well, because you're pushing against the resistance. So if you remember the guideline that we talked about in the previous slide, we want to aim for 150 to 300 minutes of the aerobic exercises, and we want to aim for about 30 minutes twice a week of the strength training. But that's not all. In fact, this 4 options I have here is not all the type of exercises we can get into, but simplicity is important here. Number 3, balance exercises. As we age, we notice that having a sense of balance is important. And in fact, we notice that elderly patients who actually have balance issues end up falling and getting injury more. So balance exercises are important to help you keep steady on your feet and prevent falls. So why is it not an aerobic exercise? Because it's not really targeted to increase heart rate or increase respiratory rate. Why is it not strength training? It's not necessarily focusing on any muscle group. However, the ability just even to stand on one feet should be part of your routine in terms of balance exercises to make sure that you really work on that balance that your body needs, especially as you age. You'll notice those deficits. Incorporating that into your exercise now is very important. I'll give you some example of balance exercises that you can do. And then the 4th exercise option that I have here is flexibility exercise. When you're working out, a lot of people don't like to think about stretching. But stretching your muscle is not an afterthought. It's all part of the exercise. It's not like you've done the big work, now ignore stretching and walk away. Because your ability to keep that flexibility in your muscles, in your tendon, in your joints, actually increases your range of motion. And we find that when we don't do that as much, it actually restricts our range of motion and can increase our chances of injury even when you're exercising. So flexibility exercises like stretching is not an afterthought. It should be really part of your routine. So now that I put all that behind me, I know that's a lot of lingo. Just remember the guideline, 150 to 300 minutes of exercise, aerobic exercise, and twice a week, about 20 to 30 minutes of strength training to start with. And then incorporating balance and flexibility as often as you can is also important. So that's all about exercise. So let's get into how we can structure our own exercise prescription for the next year. So like I said, an example of aerobic exercise would be walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, dancing. Most people are familiar with aerobic exercises. And then strength training, like weightlifting, body weight exercises like squats, push-up, and even using resistance bands are quite helpful for strength training. Flexibility training, however, usually you may need a video, maybe pull it up on YouTube to help you with that. Or if you have a personal trainer, I encourage you to talk to them. But usually they're just static stretching that involves extending your range of motion to the limits that your body can take you. But it really helps to keep that flexibility going and improve your range of motion. What about balance exercises? Like standing on one leg, heel to toe walking, balance board exercise, Tai Chi. There are various ways you can incorporate just 5 minutes of balance exercises into your daily routine without changing much. And then, I didn't mention this earlier, but functional movement, a lot of people don't think about functional movement until they have injury. Now, it's important to allow yourself to engage in functional movement every day, whether you're injured or not. Let me give you an example of a practical functional movement. The ability to squat and lift something up is something we take for granted. But if you're not one to do that all the time, you may notice that when you start squatting, it's just so difficult to do. What about climbing stairs? So all these things that are embedded into the things that we do every day, it's very easy for us to take for granted. But functional movement is important because our range of motion, if we don't use it, we lose it. So it's important to keep that in mind even as we go through our daily routine. I know this is a lot. You have the slides to help you as you craft your exercise plan. But feel free to pick up an option from aerobic exercise, another option from strength exercises, and put that together to design your own wellness plan, your exercise plan for the year. Okay, so this is another sample of a weekly exercise schedule. Don't be overwhelmed. I just put that guideline into a table, and from the table, you can craft where you are. Again, the goals are the goals. If you're not able to start from there, it's okay. Start with 10 minutes, start with 15 minutes. Don't forget, though, to include a rest day or two in your plan. If you don't plan well, you may end up getting overwhelmed. If you tighten up your schedule too much and you fall off the wagon, your chances of getting back on it is lower. So like I said in yesterday's session, if you missed it, please go watch it. Embedding flexibility is not a lazy way out. It's important to put rest days because you'll need it. Trust me. Okay, so this is an empty slide for you to print out and just plan your exercise. You know the guidelines, you know the activities that are necessary, you know the time that you have, even if you want to start 5-10 minutes, at least start something. So why don't you go ahead after this session is over, plan your exercise, and feel free to send me a message in the community. Let me know if you have any questions. Tomorrow we will have office hours to go through any questions you may have relating to your exercise plan. Okay. Now, let's talk about nutrition. Again, ACLM, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, recommends that we largely eat mostly plants, whole food, and nutrients-dense diet. The focus is on plant-based food, healthy fats, lean proteins, and reducing or eliminating processed food. I know that's a lot of lingo. I like to keep it simple because when it's too complicated, you're likely not going to remember. The general idea for this guideline is eat food. Eat food. I know you're like, yeah, I do eat food. Eat all food. The more processed our food becomes, the more they start to gear away from food to food-like substances. So because we eat something today does not mean it's food. In fact, there's a saying that if your great-great-grandmother will not recognize what you're eating today, it's most likely not food. Think about that. So eat food, mostly plants, and eat nutrients-dense food. So let's simplify it. Eat food, mostly plants, and don't eat too much. If you can remember 3 things from this, you would have gotten most of the takeaway from the nutrition plan. Eat food, eat mostly plants, and don't eat too much. We'll get into some details around how to calculate how much you take and all that. I don't want to bug you down with the detail because we want a plan that we can actually follow through on. So what's important for me today is that start to think about what is not food in your diet. What is a food-like substance, something that your great-great-grandmother would not recognize as food? If you start to notice that, cut that out. Mostly plant. I'm not going to tell you to go vegan or vegetarian, but mostly plant. If you want to start with cutting down or swapping out one meal for mostly plant-based meal, that would be a win as well. And I'll give you some guidelines to do that later on in the slide. Okay, so whole food, fruits, vegetable, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seed. And limiting processed food is very important because nowadays we just put too many things in our mouth that we're not even thinking, what am I eating? So sugary snacks. We're going to have some deeper dive into nutrition and how to read labels, but I'm just going to simplify it by saying limit the consumption of sugary snacks, processed meat. If you cannot trace the meat to an animal that you know, all these engineered meats that we eat, just limit them. Fried foods, limit them, limit refined grains as well. Again, I don't want to bore you down with so much detail. Eat food, mostly plants, and don't eat too much. So let's give you some guidelines here. We want to focus on eating for fueling. Like I said, eating for fueling, eating for the body, not just eating because it tastes good. So anytime you put anything in your mouth, you're thinking, how will this nourish my body? Plant-based is important because anytime we eat more plants, we actually engage in more, we put in more antioxidants in our bodies. And usually that helps to prevent a lot of diseases. I'll get into the science of this during a later course, but for now, we're keeping it simple. And then hydration. Your goal, if you're a female, about 2 liters a day. If you're a male, about 3 liters a day. Okay? So let me do a recap because I want it to be simple enough that you'll be able to follow through on. Eat food, mostly plants, not too much. Eat for fueling, not just for taste alone. Taste is good, but think about fueling your body. And hydrate. And I'm not saying hydrate with colored water. Hydrate with water. Okay. All right. So what would a nutrition plan look like for you in 2025? I broke it down a little more here. I'm just going to have a few asks for you. One meal. It could be breakfast. It could be lunch. It could be dinner. Switch it to plant-based, minimally processed meal. So maybe one lunch could be salad. Whatever your options are, you can definitely make your salad delicious. I'm not saying it should be boring without dressing, but at least let's start from simplicity. One meal, we're going to switch it to a plant-based meal, minimally processed. Your second nutrition plan is to hydrate. I'm sure you're thinking, I already drink water. But for those that don't drink enough, your goal for female, 2 liters, for male, 3 liters. And if you're one that enjoys a lot of sugary beverage, I would say let's reduce to 2 times per week, not 2 times per day, 2 times per week. And I'm thinking the whole week. So remember your coffee with the extra sugars, remember the soda, remember the colored water. Every way that extra sugar is sneaking into your beverage, you have to be aware of it. But I understand some people need cheats here and there. So twice a week, let's start with that. What are your thoughts? Simple enough, I hope. Okay. So I do have a few caveats. One, this is your plan. You can modify as you go. Wherever you are, you may need to modify, but just make sure that you have a plan. Not having a plan at all is what's not good. But now that you've planned, you have a guardrail to help you as you navigate your year. Also, if this is too simplistic for you, I get it. The idea is to really serve those who may be going from, I don't know what to do, to starting something. So by all means, if you need a more tailored approach to your nutrition or exercise, we do have one-on-one time with our coaches on the Living Edified Tribe that can help you take a deeper dive into your nutrition plan and your exercise plan and tailor it to your needs. But this is only when you join the community on the inside. Okay. The other caveat I have here is reassess at the end of the month. It's not a one and done deal. Your body will tell you when you're starting to exceed the exercise plan that you set for yourself. I didn't talk about moderate intensity as much because I didn't want to inundate you, but you'll start to know when the exercise is seeming easy for you. Let's say you're exercising, maybe walking on the treadmill or running, and you're able to talk like I'm talking. That means the intensity is not moderate. If you're able to stop and just engage with me like I'm talking, then maybe you should step it up a notch. So reassess after 1 month, see where you are, or even after 1 week. You know your body, reassess and see whether you're just lounging and not really exercising, and see if you can build things up more. Like I said, we have coaches on the inside that can help you look at your plan more intricately and customize to your needs. But let's start here. Okay. So what are the next steps for today? The workbook is ready. I will be putting it in the community for download. Please look out for it at the end of this session. You can still share this challenge with a friend. It's free and the replays will be available. Other thing you can do, if you love this content and really want to just get someone to be a springboard for your decisions and encourage you and cheer you on, you can listen to our podcasts on Living Edified with Dr. O. You can also visit our website, www.livingedified.com. Follow us on Instagram at Living Edified. If you have any questions, like I said yesterday, go ahead and put that in the chat in the community. We will be able to answer your questions. Please give us about 24 hours to do so. If there are no more questions, I will see you on the inside. Make sure you share this with a friend or loved one. It's important that we plan for our year, plan for our day. And please don't think you plan and you chug it away. 2025 actually starts in maybe 28 days or 27 days. You can start today. Your plan doesn't have to sit on the shelf. Change can start from the day you decide to change. But I'm just riding on the wings of New Year resolutions. That's why I keep saying 2025. But these plans can be put into action today. Today. So please stay encouraged. Do your homework. Make sure you write your exercise plan and your nutrition plan. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're making a decision towards a better version of you. And that's all that matters. Thank you so much for your time. I will see you on the inside. Bye-bye.